most of humanity is in an absolute hypnotic trance that is they're put in from cradle to grave by constant repetition of a fake reality. And when we wake up from this, then we will not be subservient.
Hello, this is my next video for the Portuguese crisis, and in this video we'll be seeing through the roots of the crisis, through the misconceptions for the European concept. Then we will see how the Greek crisis occurred, and we'll see the implications of the Greek crisis in all Europe, but we will focus mostly on Portugal because it's my home country and the Portuguese people are really being affected. Just to give you an example, my family will have a 20% wage reduction. And so things are getting really bad for the Portuguese economy and for the whole Portuguese generation. And so we must know the reasons for this. And with this video I will tell the reasons. At least my own opinion. If you agree with them, awesome. If you don't agree with them, I consider you searching. And I always appreciate constructive criticism. The first thing we must understand about Europe and the way that European Union works is that countries have, with the European Union and after the introduction of the euro, countries have the same rating, which is Germany has the same interest rate as Greece and Portugal, almost the same. And so this has led to massive lending by governments, and there was no fiscal regulation. Because Europe did not attack the sovereignty of a country by saying you cannot borrow much, there's no limit to how much you borrow. So Europe has only a common monetary policy, no common fiscal policy. And this has led to a really bad situation. For example, Italy, Portugal, Greece, Spain, the southern countries have borrowed a lot and more than what they can actually repay in normal conditions. But Europe and the way that Europe is designed has a problem with this, and so they are the seeds of this whole Greek and then Portuguese debt crisis. And so in October 2009, it turned out the Greek deficit was 12%, while the Greek government announced a few months earlier that it was only 3%. This event was the single event that triggered all the Europe crisis. The stock markets have really collapsed. They were not expecting this. And so what now? The EU must act. It will say that the Greek crisis, there is a Greek crisis, but we will contain it firmly so it won't contagiate and affect other countries. But have they done that? They've tried to do it, but really slowly. The way that Europe is designed is that every country should agree on the common agreement to bail out Greece. And so only in May 2010 have they made the first bailout, and it was really late because the interest rates on Greece have already skyrocketed to about 20-25% at a time. And so they've also created FEFF, which will try to regulate and give money to countries in need, to peripheral countries like Portugal, Spain, Greece, maybe even Italy. But again, the way that the Eurozone is designed, that is not enough to contain this whole financial pandemonium, and so financial virus cannot contain. So investors have started to rethink Greece. Should I be worried about my money that I invested in Greece? Would the euro pay me off? Of course they can. No country after World War II has ever been in a bankrupt situation. But there's really something which is the core of how the markets work. The markets don't care of how countries give their money. All the markets care is making more money. And that is pretty much the reason why markets exist. Investors want to make money, they want a higher return of investment. So they really don't care how a country acts or what it does to give the money. All they want is money and securities for money. This can be done at the expenses of a country, as we will see later on. Okay, so now that the financial crisis has occurred in Greece, it's quickly spread throughout Europe. Now, any country with bad debt dynamics is a possible loss for the markets. This created lots of bad situations for countries throughout Europe. We'll see. Ireland housing bubble burst, causing them to be bailed out by the IMF. The Portuguese interest rate started going up, also skyrocketing. There were growing concerns about Spanish unemployment, which is now up to 25%, and they were starting to have some concerns on Italy, debt dynamics. There were lots of summits, mostly between the German Chancellor Angela Merkel and the French President Nicolas Sarkozy, but the markets were not convinced because there was no definite solution to this crisis. Eurobonds could have been a really good solution, but they didn't approve it because they don't want Europe to be that involved in that together. So Eurobonds could really be a solution for the crisis. Now we will see the specific case of Portugal. Portugal has a really close and similar position to Greece. It has the same debt levels, has the same GDP, and has similar similar deficit levels. And so this situation, being similar to Greece, was really what was the doom of Portugal, because investors started thinking that maybe we should not invest in Portugal just to be safe, to be on the safe side, because since we are really close to a country that has shown to be bad for them and not profitable, then they would not invest in us and have higher interest rates. And so Portugal gets infected. With the higher interest rates, the Socialist Party led by José Sócrates, they launched the austerity package called PEC, Program for Austerity and Stability and Growth. But then, after the first PEC, the Moody's started downgrading Portugal, so again the interest rates have increased. There were 4 packages like this, and after the fourth, PEC number 4, the opposition did not pass, and so the government just broke, and Portugal went bankrupt. Socrates quits. He moved to France, and now we have a really conservative social democrat government who is really up for austerity and convincing the markets that we are a safe investment. So we are trying now to cut our deficit and show the markets that Portugal is some place to invest. At the same time, the IMF comes to the rescue in Portugal. This was done in summer of 2011. And Portugal is not on the financial market anymore. We are safeguarded by the IMF. By the way, the measures that the new governments are doing right now are way worse than PEC number 4 by the José Sócrates government. This is just an idea. So what is the government doing now? The taxes have increased, both VAT and IRS, so both direct and indirect taxes are increased. The wages lowered. For example, for the public function, it has lowered about 20%, affecting my family as well. Also, transportation, electricity, bus fares, subway fares, everything went up. So the real problem starts now. As we will see, austerity will not work to solve the Portuguese crisis. Never has a country with a great recession came out after a crisis, because saving money by harming the people is like not sending your child to the university just to save money. So in the long run, the economy will worsen because unemployment will increase and basically everyone will be in a worse situation, and so insecurity will increase. I would like to give the example of Neville Chamberlain in the 30s, England, after the big crash of 29. It was a pretty similar situation to what Europe is going now, and they have solved it through massive government spending in the economy, and so we're doing exactly what we are not supposed to do, by saving up money but harming the country's economy. And now is the really interesting part, because as we will see, all efforts done by Europe and Portuguese governments are worthless. Let's explain this. Markets are really ruthless. The only thing they care is making money and higher return of interest, higher ROI, return on investment. I'm sorry. And so all the markets care is ways of making more profits. This is both traders and investors. They don't care about the country's situation or if they are being harmed. They only care about making money. They don't care about government austerity. They don't care if they are making efforts to be good in the long run. All they care is short-run profits. As we will see, there's a website showing that there's a study being the IMF that all the markets carry short-term profits. You'll see it in the description. So the financial market is really complex. There's this thing called CDS, credit default swaps. It's a derivative, and what it allows is that the markets will make more money if we would go bankrupt, because they are betting that we will go bankrupt. So we, as Portugal, are more productive and profitable to the markets if we go bankrupt than if we would recover. We have a problem. This is undeniable. We have a share in the problem. We're responsible, or at least partly responsible. But the solution that we are trying through austerity is only worsening the existing problem, while it will fuck things up for the next generation, because it will have to pay the interest rate we are doing now. Right now the interest rate in Portugal is about 15%. Well, let's say the acceptable rate is, this is for 5-year loans, which is a standard, and the acceptable rate should be around 6, 7, no more than 8. So we are in a really bad situation. But all our austerity is meaningless, because the ones that we are trying to please have a different agenda for us. And so we need to understand that a serious problem is occurring right now, and it will not solve on our own. The economic paradigm is not against, it's against people, and it's for the rich to making profits out of other countries' losses. And so we really should wake up.